Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's our weekly roundtable discussion as we check in with all our teams across the region. I'm Stephen Brown and joining me for tonight's episode, I've got our resident terrier. It is Stephen Down. Steve, how are we doing, mate?
Not bad. Thanks.
Yeah, positive result at the weekend, so you must be a little bit happier than you were 7 days ago on our last show.
Yeah, definitely. The smiles are back. The worry's still there, but the smiles are back.
Good stuff. That's what we want to hear. We're also joined by Gareth Walker as well. Gaz, how are we doing, mate?
Yeah, not so bad. Thank you. Fair point by the sounds of it. And obviously still unbeaten or only lost one in a while. So, yeah, still in that top three. Keep plugging away.
And I was going to ask, actually, is there still, if you look closely, can you see some steam coming from Gaz's ears still about that refereeing performance at the weekend? But we'll wait to see what he's got to say about that in a bit. And of course, rounding us off, we've got our non-league expert as well. It is Lewis Sale, or should I say, TalkSports Lewis Sale. Lewis, how are we doing, mate? You made a little appearance, didn't you, on TalkSport? You're not leaving us for them, are you?
No, not yet. But there's time, depending on what the transfer fee is, mate. You know, it's transfer deadline day. We don't do much on transfer deadline day, so it might just shake things up a bit, mightn't it?
I know, BFFs with Andy Goldstein, aren't you? It was like it was funny because you rang in as a caller, didn't you? We were talking about, I think, was it Newcastle or what was it?
VAR.
No, it was VAR, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Have you ever called before? Like, you should come on again." There you go. So,
I mean, he knows his stuff. He knows the Oracle when he sees him, doesn't he?
Lou's going to end up like Mark Goldbridge, isn't he, with his own show on TalkSport? I mean, he does look a bit like Goldbridge.
Right, come on, Downsy. Let's move on, mate, quickly.
Yeah,
the Oracle is being headhunted.
I know. It was a matter of time, though. It was inevitable, to be fair.
Yeah,
I'm loyal, boys. I'm loyal.
We're just happy whilst we've got.
Gaz will be happy anyway. He's made top row tonight for a change. I think this is about only the third time Gaz has been top row.
Permanently up there now. So coming up on tonight's show, Huddersfield Town came from behind for the first time in nearly a year to beat Barnsley 2-1. But after a run of poor form and with fans' expectations not being met, where do the Terriers find themselves now? And 10 men, Bradford City put in a spirited performance against Newport County at the weekend, but did the referee cost the Bantams a potential 3 points? We'll also take a look at our teams across non-league, including another Farsley Celtic update after they announced a new manager, but how did they get on at the weekend? And we'll also, if we've got time, we'll preview the huge top-of-the-table clash in the Championship between Leeds Utd and Sunderland, which kicks off in about an hour and a half's time. So apologies if I'm a little bit on edge during this, but I am getting pretty nervous now with the game not too far away as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching along on X, please do like and retweet us and get involved by letting us know your thoughts on what we're discussing. Okay, Downsy, we'll kick things off with yourself and Huddersfield Town because I know we've got you to till about 10 to 7. So back at it, a win and a performance where you've come from behind as well.
Yeah, it was a massive Yorkshire derby. Both teams going for the playoff sort of positions. Town currently in those playoff positions, sat at 5th. Barnsley were a little bit down the league in 9th, and it was a big game for both managers. Darryl Clark at Barnsley, obviously, he's under a bit of pressure. Michael Duff, as we well know, I talk about enough on the show, that under some sections of the Town support, under a bit of pressure. So it was always going to be a tight game. I think, on our last Town Talk podcast, me and Kane were sort of saying that we kind of expected it to be a turgid Yorkshire derby that would end probably in a 1-1 draw. But it did end 2-1. It didn't start very well for Town. In fact, the whole first half was absolutely abysmal. It's become a bit of a theme across the season where Town really don't play well in the first half and suddenly get a bit better in the second. John Russell, ex-Town player, in the not the promotion season, the season that we ended up losing to Forest in the final. He played in midfield for Barnsley, scored a goal. The goal was just badly defended. I mean, he literally runs 30 yards. Nobody puts a tackle in, skips past 2 players and bags it into the bottom corner. Nichols could have done a bit better as well, to be honest. So that was disappointing. And then Barnsley had a few more chances, if we're being completely honest. I mean, they had one just over the bar. Keller Dunn should have done a bit better with his opportunity. And it was just turning into a bit of an absolute sort of whirlwind of emotion, really, in the away end. It got to half-time and there was lots and lots of boos as the players come off. Rightly so. I never really boo players, but, I think when there is such a downgrade in performance, and we have seen it in the last 5 fixtures, but that first half definitely was the worst. And something needed to change at half-time. Half-time came and there was a definite different spring to the players' steps in the second half, started creating chances. Ben Wow started getting on the ball more. The young lad from Wolves, who I will always now pronounce wrongly in Chirua or Chirea, he was probably man of the match, to be honest. And he had, he was creating things, trying to set players on. First goal was probably, you would say, horrific defending from Barnsley. But after what we saw in the first half with John Russell, we can't say about horrific defending. I mean, Sorensen puts an absolutely spectacular ball through the middle, right through the middle of the Barnsley defence. Josh Karoma gets onto it, slips it into the net. A typical Josh Karoma finish. And the second goal, again, horrific defending from Barnsley. I mean, this was literally 2 minutes later, so you should be on your guard, really. Ben Wiles puts a free kick in basically from the byline where the throw-in should have been taken. It goes through Marshall's legs and it goes right into the far corner. I mean, you should never, ever concede a goal like that, realistically, even at League One level. So it was a good win in the end, but it was kind of a tale of two halves, really, Steve.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that second goal, it was one of them horrible ones, wasn't it? It was just like an outswinger, and you think somebody's going to kick it away or do something, and it gets round the keeper as well. You're just shaking your head. But yeah, I mean, I've only watched the extended highlights, but yeah, from what I saw, Barnsley creating a lot of chances kind of early on, and then you eventually kind of get to grips with it, like you said. Second half they've had a rocket up them, and they've got their act together. And Chirua, he looked very, very lively. He was one that kind of stood out on the highlights. You're thinking, wow, he looks a player. I mean, how exciting to have someone like him on board, Steve.
Yeah, definitely. He reminds me a lot of Casey Palmer, kind of that wiry type of, not really tall, but sort of get in the number 10 position, can bully a few people off the ball. Definitely got a bit of skill about him and a little bit of trickery and pace. I mean, he was brought in as what we all thought was going to be a left winger, but he can play anywhere in the 4 front positions. And so, yeah, he's looked good. Like, I thought he was good at the home game. I wasn't at Barnsley, but from the highlights and everything that I've taught, so he looks a really good player, and I think hopefully he continues in that form, because we need every player, as it stands with the injuries, that we've got to be playing well.
Yeah, just wanted to mention as well about Sorensen as well. You mentioned, fantastic through ball to start the equaliser there, and he had such a good start to the season, and then obviously injuries, etc., and out of form. Are we possibly seeing a kind of return to his best potentially there, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of games he's come back from injury wasn't great. The thing about Sorensen, what he does do is he gets down the line and always wants to put the cross in. He never really dips inside, to be honest, like Josh Karoma does on the other side. So at least he tries to get to the byline and puts cross in. The crosses are not consistent, but at least they're being put in there. And yeah, against Barnsley, probably was his best performance since he's come back into the team. We want to see the player that we signed from Lincoln in the division. So I think it's nice to see him back in the team. He's probably, if you picked our first 11, he would be in there. And we need him playing well, but it's going to be one of them, innit? For the second half of the season, he's just going to get after, sort of get back up to speed, really, and that's going to take him a bit of time with the injury that he had.
Just a quick one from me, Downsy. And you were on not so long ago, Town were on a really good run. Were you like 14 games or something unbeaten? Something like that, wasn't it? And then you've been on a little bit of a sticky patch. I was just looking at your results. You've gone 5 without a win before Saturday. But Saturday, to me, looks like a really big result for Town, because Obviously, it's a Yorkshire derby. You're away from home. You're behind in the game. Like you say, you've had a poor first half. If you lose that game, Barnsley are going to be 3 points behind Town, when previously you were looking at probably being one of 4 teams going for automatic promotion. Are you confident after Saturday that you can find a bit of a good run of form, get a bit of a good run going again, and possibly look up towards the autos again? Or are you resigned to the fact that you're going to be a playoff side now?
No, I think the more likely you look at the points difference, Gaz, and there's, I think, 8 points difference between us and second place. That's 3 fixtures now. Incidentally, the next three fixtures are against bottom 7 sides. So, as I've said all along, yes, you can't count any win in this league, but I would like to think if you're playing a bottom 7 side and you're a club that wants to have aspirations of getting promoted, you need to be winning all 3 of these games. You need 9 points. Now, we've been stung in 2 games against Northampton like that. We've also been stung in games against Shrewsbury. That's coming up. Shrewsbury were really good when they came to our place. Admittedly, now we're under a different manager in Ainsworth, and they're very hard to beat, by the way, particularly on the home turf. So it's not going to be an easy game tomorrow night, but it is a fixture that if you want to go, you need to win. I agree, Gaz, completely in the story of the season. Saturday, was a massive win. There were also massive wins, if you remember, against Barnsley earlier in the season when we played Barnsley after we'd gone on that other sticky little patch, and we played them twice, one in the Fisherman Friends Crap Cup and one in the league, and we won both them games. And after that, then we went on the 16 unbeaten beaten run. Yeah. Now, within that 16 games, there were too many draws. It did feel a little bit like Lee Clark 2011. But nevertheless, we did go unbeaten. Now, if this win against Barnsley goes on and gets us winning again, then that's great. I do think autos are. There's a shade that we still might get them, but I think it's different to a couple of weeks ago, if I'm being honest. And it seems like Stockport and Charlton have come into really good form. Bolton's got a really good manager now in Steve Schumacher. So I think playoffs are likely.
Okay. Yeah, and there was a really fascinating debate that you had with Kane on the Town Talk podcast, I should say, as well, about the structure of the club. You guys were debating kind of that as a whole, director of football, ownership, the ambition, the fact that it's been set out that the automatics were what you guys were aiming for, and it looks as if you're going to fall short from that. How are you feeling about that kind of since your discussion with Kane?
Yeah, I think it was a really good debate. I think me and Kane are both sensible supporters. We don't get, although as much as Chris likes to on the show, rile me up at times. I think, we're both sensible enough to know where Town are at. There was a fans forum with the hierarchy of the club. Now, the main character that everybody wanted there, Mark Cartwright, wasn't available, which was very frustrating, much like when Gaz talked about fans forums at Bradford City. You want the main person there that's either making decisions on players or on the club as a whole. And when they've not been there, it's very frustrating. So that was frustrating. But we had Jake Edwards there, the CEO. We also had Paul. I can't remember his second name. Sorry, Paul, if you're watching. Not that you will be. He was there, who's sort of head of commercial. And we also have Duff there. And Dave Threatful Sykes, who's sort of been at the club for donkey's years now and knows the ins and outs. So Dave's always very honest. I think Paul, the commercial manager, gave a lot of interest, but it was probably information that a lot of Town fans already knew, such as like season tickets are going to rise next season and stuff like that. And CEO Jake Edwards always speaks well, I think, to be honest. And Duff answered the questions that he was tasked with well as well. So it was a good fans forum. I think it was very cleansed, sanitized in terms of its questions. And I still think there is questions needed to be asked of the hierarchy, particularly if we don't go up. But am I confident? I'm confident that we'll be in and around the playoffs. am I confident we'll win the playoffs? That's a bit less confident because there are other sides, like I say, that are doing really well at the moment and, look in far better form. Me and Kane have had this interesting debate all season where we've got results, we haven't seen a total performance.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it before, but moving on, Shrewsbury tomorrow night. Perfect opportunity for back-to-back wins. You would have thought there, Stephen. Like you say, they're going to have to start, churning out those kind of results if they're serious about staying in those playoff places.
Yeah, 100%. We've got Shrewsbury, then we've got Peterborough, and then we've got
Wigan.
Wigan. Sorry, yeah. So Wigan actually are probably the toughest fixture in that run, because they came to us earlier in the season, couldn't score for Toffee, but defended really well and looked really solid. If they had any sort of attack, they'd be all right in this league. Shrewsbury under Ainsworth tomorrow. Like I said, they tend to play better at home, and they're very defensively minded now. So they're set up really well and they break really fast. So it's going to be a tough game. But like I said earlier, you would like to hope that if we've got the players to go there and win. Peterborough's probably the easier of the fixtures because they're absolutely dire. You look at Peterborough's team and the results that they've had. They are shocking at the moment. I can't believe that Darren Ferguson's still there as manager, to be absolutely honest.
How is he still in a job, given
I don't know,
because
he does tend to sack managers quite a lot, doesn't he? McCarthy. Is it McCarthy? McAntony, that's it. So, I don't really know why Darren Ferguson's still there. But yeah, hopefully a win tomorrow against Shrewsbury and then a win against Peterborough. But yeah, it's I think, look, the one of the things that I want to say, and I have said it before, Town fans, we on the whole does like Duff, how he speaks and he comes across. He's had a change of system now, where we've played more of a 4-3-3. So hopefully that gets a few more supporters back on side. The fact that he's happy to change systems and formations, and he's not as rigid as what people thought. But I do like his honesty. I'll be honest. He come out after the game and he said the players and I deserve to be booed off in the first half at Barnsley. And I think when you've got a manager that's as truthful as that, you can't ask for much more, can you? He's not dressed it up, has he? He's basically said we deserve the hiding that we got. And then we also deserve to be clapped off in the second half, which the Town fans did do, to win the game. 4,500 there at the weekend, by the way. Absolutely magnificent support. I know it's not that far, but to take that to Barnsley, we're in the form that we're in after 5 no wins. I mean, that's great support, is that?
You've up against Big Verdane Oliver tomorrow night, Downsy.
I saw Gaz. He scored, didn't he, at weekend?
He did. He scored a lot well.
How do you feel about that? The fact that he's gone and scored there straight. It's a bit of a weird loan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a funny one. He's a very, shall we say, old school, unique type of centre forward. He's absolutely massive. I don't dislike him as much as some City. He's absolutely derided by some City fans, and I think mainly that's because he was rumoured to be on such a big wage and he just wasn't contributing what he should have been contributing for the money he was on. But it's not his fault. He was offered and signed the contract he was given. He came in on the back of a 20-goal season in League One and obviously dropped down to League Two to sign for us. I think Hughes wanted him to be the main man, but then obviously all it did was the effect we got out of him was that it kick-started Andy Cook into the form of his life, and obviously he ended up playing second fiddle to Andy Cook. But what he will do is he will win his fair share of stuff in the air. He's an absolute brute. So if as you say, the defensive and the play on the break, you can see how he will fit in to that style of play. And as you say, he got his first goal for them at the weekend, which is, I think he only got one for us all season. So he's ahead of the strike rate he had for us. So yeah, just be aware of him. Like I said, they'll hit him with long balls and play off him down. So that's what they'll do. But
I don't mind that, guys. That suits our defence better than quick pacey forwards, if I'm being completely honest. When you've got Tom Lees there, and I like Tom Lees, but he's not the quickest. But he'll have a go in the air with anybody. If he's 6'6" or whatever, Tom Lees will go toe to toe with him in the air. Volker's good in the air. Town defence struggles against quicker players. So if they're just going to play off him, as long as you win the second balls off him, then you're sorted. That's our biggest worry. Would we win the second balls in midfield?
Yeah. In the last game, I'm just looking at the lineup they put out in the last game. They had him up front with John Marquis.
Yeah,
he's a blast from the past, and he scored a lot of goals at Leeds Utd. But again, he's another bit of not a big lad, but a big-ish lad, isn't he, John Marquis?
Yeah.
So they got two units up front, and then our old friend Alex Gilead also plays for Shrewsbury, but I don't know how he's doing. So he's a midfielder.
I think he's the creator for him. From what I understand, he's the one that floats about picking up them second balls. So that the likes of Kasumu coming back, I'm really pleased that he's back. Hogg and we've also got Hodge in there. They really need to keep an eye on Gilead and make sure if that ball bouncing down from the two strikers that they win it. They're the first there on the scene. I'm sure Johnny Hogg will be. Well, that's unless you tackle somebody around the neck.
He's a workhorse. He's Gilead. He's an absolute workhorse. He runs and runs and runs. So that's what you're up against with him, really. If you can beat him for quality, you'll be all right.
I'll go 2-0.
2-0. Fair enough. And a nice little scouting report there, Gaz. So good stuff, helping a fellow West Yorkshire football team out. Steve,
one of my old uni mates is a Shrewsbury fan, and obviously I keep an eye on the results. And then obviously a couple of ex-City players there as well. So
there we go. Insider knowledge, we can't beat that. Steve, just before you go, are you any town talks coming out this week or any plans? At the moment?
I don't. Depends if we lose to Shrewsbury, to be honest. I don't know. They might be. Just keep an eye on the channels. Depends if the lads are free.
Fantastic, good stuff. Well, Steve, we'll let you go. Thank you very much for your time this evening, mate. We'll chat again soon.
Yeah, no worries. Just last thing to say, and I'm sure Lou will follow up in this message, but away the Black Cats. So yeah, Lou's definitely going to say that. At the end of
when I had the chance. I should have kicked him out when I had the chance.
Right, see you later, boys.
See you later,
Bye.
Bye. There we go. That was Steve Downs on Huddersfield Town. A couple of comments coming in as well, guys. Thank you so much for that. Please do remember to smash a like on the video as well. Ryan, League One is so strong this season. All of the top four deserve promotion. Huddersfield Town, of course, sitting in fifth. John, Orient are the ones that look the real threat in those playoffs right now on a real good run of form. And Michael, performances have got to improve for Town. Any more injuries and we might not make the playoffs. A lot of teams catching us up. Good stuff. Excellent. So if you're watching along on Twitter, please do retweet it, get your comments in, follow the page as well. And if you're watching along YouTube, do please make sure you're subscribing as well. Well, Gaz, we're going to move on now to Bradford City. 0-0 against Newport at the weekend. But I mean, looking into this game today, obviously researching the show tonight, and it was just referee issues all over the place. So many decisions. I was watching the extended highlights, trying to pick up on a few of these decisions that had gone against it. I mean, it can't start anywhere else other than the sending off. I mean, what did you make of it, Gaz?
It's a difficult one. I didn't see the game Brownie at the weekend. I was having some family time at the weekend, and I've not seen it. Much of it all. I've seen obviously the extended highlights that have gone on YouTube. All I know is obviously what people have told me who I know who were at the game. And apparently, he was just, the referee's just shocking throughout. He's got a bit of a reputation. I'm just actually Googling now to find out what he's called because I can't remember his name. But prior to our game against Newport on Saturday, there had been referee Andrew Humphreys, he's called.
Andrew Humphreys, I was looking at there.
Not long promoted out of non-league, I think. I think both Port Vale fans and manager and Crewe fans and manager have had complaints about him recently, just really, really erratic decision-making. It felt like we were on the wrong end of it on Saturday. The sending off, if you've seen it, the striker gets the wrong side of Jack Shepherd. That's the first thing to note. So he is technically goal side with a run on goal. Where the confusion or the debate comes from about whether it's a red card or not is how far away he is from goal, because he's only just inside the City half. And there is Paul Huntington who's coming round on the cover. So there's a defender not that far away. It's one of those, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's harsh. But if it was at Valley Parade and it was the other team, I think I'd have wanted a red card given for that. if it was the other way around. I think what was more frustrating was that came 2 or 3 minutes off the back of City having a goal disallowed for offside, which I'm led to believe was not offside.
Not
to be
offside.
honest. Yeah. And obviously when you have a goal ruled out for offside and then that happens 2 or 3 minutes later, you feel like the world's against you to a certain extent. And I don't think it stopped there. I think there were just decision after decision throughout the game that City fans felt were just going against them. There's one in the second half where Brad Halliday has been dragged down by the neck in the opposition box and somehow Newport get a free kick. Just bizarre. And like I say, it's not just us that have had this issue with Mr. Humphreys. I know the crew manager said last week, I think Lee Bell said he's the worst referee he'd ever seen.
He's officiated 6 games at League Two level, and his last 2 games before today he gave red cards that were subsequently overturned.
Yeah, I don't think the City one will be overturned. I think it's like I say, it's one of those where if you appeal, you're not going to get anywhere. I believe City said, I think Graham Alexander said today, obviously he's done the pre-match for tomorrow night's game today, and he said they won't be appealing. And you can understand it because looking at it, it's probably not one that's going to be overturned, but it's just one of those that you feel's gone against you. Performance as a whole, I'm led to believe that we're probably the better side, despite being down to 10 men, which is really good to see. Obviously, we're playing some good football at the moment. We're on a good run of form. I think we've only lost 1 in quite a long time. I'm not going to try and predict how many games it is because I can't remember. But it's quite one loss in a long time, and that was Wimbledon away. It were fantastic at home and really, really good, solid defensively. Good to keep the run going. Good to see the team fight. I believe there was a lot of fight, a lot of determination. They scrapped for it on Saturday. Like I said, backs against the wall, having been down to 10 men from the 17th minute. So it's a heck of a long time that you're scrapping with 10 men. And so really good to see. And long may the run continue for now, Downsy, Brownie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny as well because obviously, it's been up and down with Graham Alexander at the club. We've had you on the show every week and there's been difficult periods. And, I think he's come out today as Alexander in some interviews and he's saying it feels like a proper team now. And, when you see that they've got that result at the weekend, whereas before it might not have happened. I mean, you must be delighted to see that there really is a team spirit forged there and hopefully that can push you on to promotion.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. It feels like there's a real togetherness at the moment, both in the team and with the supporters as well. Obviously, it's rare that City are up pushing for automatic promotion, and the fans. I think I mentioned it on the show last week. The fans are really starting to feel it at the moment. They're starting to buy into what's going on. Obviously, at City, you're only ever 2 results away from a crisis, but there is still an element of cautiousness around the fan base in certain parts of the fan base especially, and City fans are preaching, just be cautious. But it's nice to be up there around that top 3 and feel that we're in with a shout of automatic promotion for once, and to be looking at how other teams do on a weekend and thinking, oh, they've dropped points, or I hope they drop points. So it's just nice to be involved. And I think Graham Alexander said after the, I can't remember which game it was, but one of the away games recently, I think it might have been Carlisle, he said that Sam Walker had made a comment after the game about City felt like the players are all part of a gang at the moment. It felt like the club's a gang and they're all pulling together. And Graham Alexander said he really likes that comment, and you can see how, like I said, together things are at the moment, and that's just really, really positive. I believe, like I said, that despite going down to 10 men, we probably had the better chances on Saturday. I believe Romany Critchlow nearly scored with pretty much the last kick of the game. We've got a big squad, but so there are players that are not making the matchday squad. You've got sort of 3, 4, 5 senior pros that are in the matchday squad on a weekend. So it's good to know that that's not creating an issue at the moment and everybody's pulling together. I think what's helping with that is those players that are involved have been getting games in the Virtue Motors Trophy, because the 4 or 5 players that we signed in January are obviously cup tied for that. So these players that are involved in a weekend in the league or on a Tuesday night in the league are getting games in the Virtue Motors, and that will probably be the case again tomorrow night against Birmingham. So that's probably helping. How it'll pan out when there's only the league games to play, I don't know. But we are also, touch wood, relatively clear of injuries at the moment, and you can't expect to be in that situation until the end of the season. So when we do pick up injuries, it's good to know that we have players there ready and able to come in and contribute.
Yeah, I was going to say there was obviously, I think, 4 changes made to the team at the weekend, and everyone's come in and played the part. Again, you mentioned Birmingham tomorrow in the Cup. How do you see that one going? I mean, how much of a priority is it? You'll be obviously underdogs, significantly so, but it's nice to kind of test yourself at that higher level, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a second season on the trot that we've made the semi-finals of that competition. Last year we had Wickham at Valley Parade, and I think quite a few of you lads watched the game. I certainly watched the game. It was on Sky. We absolutely battered Wickham. It was a travesty that we lost that game, really. Their keeper, the Polish lad who they had on loan, has made some amazing saves, and then they've gone up the other end in really their only attack of the game and scored with a minute to go on the break. I think tomorrow will be a lot tougher. Obviously, we're away from home. You've got everything that goes with Birmingham at the moment, massive budget, clear and away at the top of League One, clearly the best side in League One at the moment. I think the home record's phenomenal. I watched the highlights of the game that they had against Newcastle in the Cup and pushed Newcastle all the way in the FA Cup, and obviously looked not a match for Newcastle, but not far off, if you know what I mean. You can see what a quality side they are. I don't go there with any expectation, Brownie. To me, it's a nice to be in a semi-final. It's a bonus to be in a semi-final. I'm sure there'll be elements of the City support, and obviously the players as well, that would love to get to Wembley, because it's a once in a lifetime experience for a lot of players and fans. I've said before, I'm fortunate. I've seen City at Wembley 4 times in my 30 odd years going watching them. To me, the league is the priority this season and has been all along, especially when we've got ourselves into the position that we're in now. But you can't help being excited by the prospect of getting to Wembley. Do I think we'll get there? No, probably not. But we'll give it a good go. And the like was described before, the way the team is at the moment, the scrapping and the fighting, and they're having a real good go in every game. They're showing what they're all about. I back us to definitely stand up to Birmingham tomorrow and give them a game. Like I say, I don't think we'll win the game. I don't think we'll get to Wembley, but I think we'll give them a good game.
Yeah, good stuff. Returning to the league then at the weekend, it's MK Dons who are on a bit of a poor run at the moment. How do you see that one going, Gaz?
Again, it's like I said on the pod last week. My issues with City, my worries with City at the moment are, particularly since Andy Cook got injured, we've gone into a really good run of form. Daft as it sounds, since Andy Cook got injured, we've gone on a really good run in the league. I'm not so sure that is. To me, that's not because Andy Cook's injured. That's because it's coincided with Alex Patterson and Anthony Sarcevic returning to fitness. And those two have both been absolutely phenomenal in this run that we've had at the moment. To me, if you had Andy Cook in this side, we'd be doing even better. I really do think we would be. Yeah. The issues that I've got with us at the moment, or my worries, are that Anthony Sarcevic and Alex Patterson, because of their injury issues, are able to play, or Graham Alexander's protecting them and not letting them play 2 games a week. So you're often finding that one's in the team and one isn't, or one's on the bench and coming on as a sub. I think Alex Patterson was on the bench on Saturday and didn't even come on. I would be confident of automatic promotion, and that is a big thing for me to say, not just as a City fan, but because of the type of person I am.
I was going to say, guys, you're the same as me, a pessimist. Like
the way we've been playing with when those two are on the pitch, we're a match for anybody, and I think we would have if we could have those two players playing 90 minutes in every league game till the end of the season, I honestly think we'd have a really good chance of automatic promotion. Obviously, the issue is that we're in the middle of. I think we're in the middle of a 6-week period now where we've been playing twice a week. So we've had the league game against Accrington was rearranged for a Tuesday night. The league game against Bromley has been rearranged for a week tomorrow. And then we've had 2 Virtue Motors Trophies games, obviously the last round and then the Birmingham game tomorrow night. And then we've got a Cheltenham home game. I think it's a fortnight to tomorrow. We've got a home game against Cheltenham on a Tuesday night. So we're in the middle of a 6-week run where we're playing twice a week. If we can come out of that period and be in the top 3 from that after this 6-week period, and we have a month or 5 weeks where obviously we come out of it and Patterson and Sarcevic are fit for starters, and we go into that month or 5 weeks where those two can play every league game for 4 to 5 weeks. I think we've got a really good chance. MK Don's a funny one because obviously expected to do well at the start of the season. Got rid of Mike Williamson, who obviously went to Carlisle and has since left there. They've brought in Scott Lindsay as manager, who took Crawley up last year. When we played Crawley towards the end of last season, we were 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go against Scott Lindsay's Crawley and ended up losing the game 4-2. We shipped 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. And that ultimately cost us a playoff place. When you looked at the table at the end of the season, Crawley got in those playoffs and obviously got promoted. We played them first game of the season and beat them 2-1. If we can play, like I say, when we have our strongest team out, I think we're a match for anybody. The issue is getting through this period where we're rotating every single game, or we're having to rotate and put players in and take players out just to keep players fit and firing. Graham Alexander has said that it's not something he likes doing. It's not something that he's done before in his career, but he realises how important it is to keep players fit at the moment. And so cautiously optimistic would be my phrase at the moment, Brownie. Like I said, let's see how we are in 2 or 3 weeks' time. If we're in that top 3 in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I think we've got a really good chance. We need to get into April and still be in that top 3 as well, because I've mentioned previously on the pod that we play Donny away, Chesterfield away, Port Vale away, and Notts County at home in April. They are 4 of our 5 games in April. So if we are, like I say, get through this period, have a good March and are still in with the top chart of the top 3 in at the end of March going into April, it's going to be really excited into the. Shall I say excited? Shall I say nervous? Bit of both. At the end of the season.
Exciting times indeed. We'll wait and see what happens at Valley Parade there. We'll see if optimism is a dangerous thing, what we guys, but hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll get through it. Just before we move on to non-league, if you're watching along now, please do like the video, subscribe, get your comments in as well. Speaking of non-league, Halifax Town were in action at the weekend and they got themselves a 1-0 victory over Boston. Our very own Dave Foy, aka Shaman Stats, sent us a little video of his thoughts on the game.
Halifax Town 1, Boston United 0 at the weekend. Jamie Cook with yet another goal for the Shaman on an absolute pudding of a pitch. It's heavy and it's, you know, we've got both codes on it now, so obviously it's a topic I've discussed and brought up many times on the show. Didn't make for a great spectacle. The referee were a little bit stop-start during the game. Most important thing is the fact that Town got 3 points though, and the build up to the goal, there was 10 very, very good intricate passes, and it all started from a free kick just inside his own half on the left, going all the way back to goalkeeper Sam Johnson. We built from the back, we drew Boston out. Ryan Galvin made an overlapping run. There was a nice little back heel kick, I think it was from Zach Emerson back to Galvin, who played it back to JB Cook, who fired in low and hard. So even though the pitch, as I say, were a bit of a pudding, we scored a very, very good goal on it. If anyone's interested in seeing it, or you may have even already seen it, it's been put out by Halifax Town's social accounts on Facebook, X, Instagram, you name it. So yeah, happy, still in the playoff hunt, up in 6th. Rochdale coming up Wednesday at home at the Shea, obviously pitch, weather permitting. And if Halifax win that game, they'll go 11 points clear, I believe, of Rochdale, who have 4 games in hand, which would really, really turn up the pressure on Rochdale. They'd have to win every one of their 4 games in hand on Halifax to then leapfrog the Shamen. We should have maybe got a little bit more out of the Rochdale game away. It was a game that I attended. It was a draw. I thought we deserved a draw, sorry. But it weren't a draw. We lost 2-1. You could tell why Rochdale were up there. You can kind of see why we're up there. And yeah, happy with the weekend's result.
There we go. That was Dave Foy reporting live from the M62 on Halifax Town's win at the weekend there. Well, looking at the rest of non-league, Lou, we can't start anywhere else other than Farsley Celtic, obviously. Last week, you guys covered a lot about what's happening at Farsley. It's a kind of incredible situation there for all the wrong reasons. A couple of updates, obviously, since then. There's a new man in charge. David Stockdale's coming in. I see that the club have also announced a crowdfunding appeal as well to try and secure the immediate future of the club. Well, what's the latest with Farsley at the moment, Lou, and how did they get on at the weekend?
Well, at time of recording, you've summed everything up perfectly. By the time we go off air, who knows, something might change. But yeah, as it stands at the moment, so I believe, obviously, from the statements that's happened during the past week, as for people that have obviously taken kind of running of the club from an operational perspective, and like you said, David Stockdale, who people will be familiar with from the Premier League, and goalkeeper, ex-Birmingham, York City, and the rest, Fulham, etc. His second over as manager, was recently manager at Blythe, but obviously they've had their own situation as well. So now he's become manager, and on the back of that, in the past couple of days, they've obviously launched, like you say, a crowdfunding. So they've come out and confirmed that they're looking to lay a grass pitch now at the Citadel. So the planning permission for a 4G has been obtained, according to their statement, and a long-term goal is to implement that plan. But the board's aim is to get a playable pitch down as soon as possible to get football back at the Citadel, which it makes perfect sense from everybody concerned. We haven't played at home ground for 9-10 months. They just somehow need to get that sorted. I mean, obviously we don't know the timescales now. And obviously we're waiting to probably find that out, because previously it was expected they'd be hoping to get back at the Citadel around March time. There was supposed to be spades in the ground last week, but again, since recent changes, obviously we're waiting to see on that one. And then the crowdfunding, which, to be honest, I'm not sounding, it sounds quite desperate, but again, I don't think it's probably much of a surprise to many people at this time of recording. They've gone over 4,500. They're aiming to raise 25,000 on the crowdfunding, and what they've done is you'll be able to see it on their social media channel, and a link to the crowdfunding of the description of what they're aiming to do, such as £10 or more, grateful thanks, basically spare us a tenner to help the club through the remainder of the season. That's kind of where they are. £25 or more, programme mention, we'll mention your next programme, £50 free family ticket, £100 secure a free Farsley Celtic home kit top, and obviously the list goes on in terms of sponsorship and commercial ideas, just to generate some revenue and some much needed funds into the club. It's ambitious, but that's kind of a state of play at the moment that we're in. In terms of on the pitch, unfortunately it's a similar story to what we've seen in recent weeks. They suffered a 3-0 loss away at Leamington, and I think it almost seemed to sum up the way things are at the moment for Farsley, because I think an hour or two just before kick-off, apparently there were like an unexpected heavy downfall of rain, and Leamington put on the socials going, we need everybody down to just get this game on. So you can imagine all that trip going down to Farsley after the situation you're currently in, to maybe find yourself without a game to play would have just been horrific. Fortunately, they've got the game on. They probably don't have to travel midweek. It's probably a blessing, because it's not the easiest place to get to and play anyway. Never mind on a cold Tuesday night. But suffered a 3-0 defeat. It's a very, very inexperienced team, where they are, let's be honest, they're going to struggle to stay up. I don't think there's hiding around that fact. But I think what the fans just want to see like now is they've seen a little bit of a glimmer of hope, probably from some of their perspective of what's happened off the field. And just to keep the club going, that's the aim of the story now. Results are likely to go against them. David Stockdale's obviously come in there. He's a local lad. I think he still lives in a local area, and he's quite closely associated with the club, so it makes perfect sense. And I suppose it's a role model for those young players to look up to and go, actually, somebody from this local area has gone and done it at the highest level, and let's try and, kind of, in Gaz's words, like kind of gang together and have that mentality, team spirit that might just see them through to the end of the season. But it's looking desperate in terms of on the pitch. Off the pitch, it doesn't look much better in terms of what we've just mentioned. But hopefully, if they do come out of it, you just never know. We keep saying it, don't we? It's a funny old game. There's people out there who are always willing to invest in clubs and maybe just, put the fingers in the back pocket and see what they can get out of their wallet and Percy. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. But it's not looking much easier. And then we've got home in inverted commas, game against Southport, which is potentially, I'd say, winnable, because Southport have not been on the best of run, 1 win in 5, struggling at the wrong end of the table in 17th, but it's not going to be easy against any team, I don't think, for the rest of the season.
No, absolutely. We'll watch this space. Lewis, just before we kind of take a look at the rest of non-league, but just obviously want to chat about the team closest to your heart, Bradford Park Avenue. It was a 3-1 loss and a bit of a poor run of form at the moment. What's going on there, Lou?
Not good at all. Recently, last Wednesday, went up to Heaton Stannington to the north east. Probably one of the worst performances I've seen from Avenue in a long time. It could have easily been 7 or 8, and it wouldn't have been unjust. Heaton Stannington played everything perfectly. Avenue were miles off it. And then Saturday just felt very similar, very flat, with little rhythm, little kind of combinations, really struggling to even put 3 or 4 passes together. And that's not an exaggeration. But Consett came there, hung in there and did the job and caught Avenue on a counter-attack on 2 or 3 occasions. They would have cut a shout for a penalty potentially, which looked harsh if it had been given. And there weren't many complaints. I know, at half-time and at the end of the game, kind of doing commentary for the club, and people were just so disgruntled about what they're seeing. There's 10 points off the playoffs. I think playoffs at the moment you can just kind of cast aside. It's Craig Elliott said this in his recent interview. It's taken a game by game. It sounds a horrible football cliche, but they've just got to take that as it goes now. And tomorrow night against Garforth for West Yorkshire derby, 2 points ahead of Avenue in a playoff push. And I think, let's be honest, I think for both teams, I'd be confidently saying this, it's probably their last chance of getting into the playoffs if they win this. A draw probably doesn't do either team any good. They've got to get 3 points to stand any chance of getting that last remaining playoff spot or last 2. But it's looking doubtful.
Yeah, indeed. So what else has caught your eye from the weekend in non-league football then, Lou?
So it was a good result for Liversidge against Pontefract Collieries and another West Yorkshire derby that we feature quite heavily at them 2 teams. I know we've spoken to Ryan Tulson previously on the show, but they were 2-0 down at half-time, and then 2 goals in the second half got them a really, really good draw against Pont in kind of a battle of the teams towards the bottom, which unfortunately has kind of pushed Brighouse Town into that relegation zone after their 4-1 defeat Ashington. But I think from Tully's perspective, from a Liversidge, he'll be very happy at seeing that kind of, again, that real steeliness and resilience that his teams normally show. In the NCL, we keep saying it, but Wakefield, the team to watch, I think 15 unbeaten now, and they're really closing the gap on the top to get into that, that automatic position, but they'll definitely be in the playoffs, and one team you just absolutely want to avoid. Other kind of notable results, Albion Sports picking up a win against Penison Church. Ironically, Albion at home tonight, the Horsefall against Gull. And then kind of Fackley losing against Pickering was a surprise, 2-0. But I think what I would say is there's a couple of fixtures happening this midweek, especially Tuesday. Silsden against Rossington Main. We've talked about Silsden before. 10 points above Hallamoo in second with a game in hand. That is Silsden's game in hand. Again, I'd be quite confident to say Silsden beat Rossington Main, who I've been disappointed who were my tip to kind of be up there or thereabouts at the end of the season. But I think if Silsden win that, I would be confident to say Silsden will be promoted as champion. So it's one to keep an eye on tomorrow night.
Fantastic, great stuff. I think my connection was breaking up there a little bit. It is a massive game in the champions for it now. The team sheets are in, so I'm going to pop a little graphic on the screen in a second when it actually loads, and we'll see how Leeds United have gone for this game. Now, just looking at it, just had a massive than we have, generally speaking, at home this season. So I'm going to pull it up now and we can cast our eyes on this and see what we make of it. So this is a Leeds United starting lineup. So it's pretty much exactly the same as the last game. Now, what Farker is... Sorry, Lou, I know you're having a look there, mate.
I'm trying to look around the corner there.
What Farker has tended to do is for the away games, he's gone with Gruev and Tanaka in the middle, which has been rock solid. They were superb last game out. And then at home, it's been Rothwell and Tanaka coming in because Rothwell a bit more creative than Gruev, and he's one of the top chance creators in the championship. But as you can see, Ilya Gruev gets the nod tonight, and obviously that's probably showing respect to Sunderland, who are obviously a top championship team themselves. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be really tight. Can't see a big scoreline there. But Lou, I mean, what do you think on that? Are you going to give it a watch? Are you going to be tuning into this?
Yeah, no, I'll be watching after we come off air. So yeah, I'll be watching it. Listen, I've got no, so to speak, in the race, but I think you'll win. I think you'll win quite comfortably. I'm I know what you're like, and I know what you're thinking, but I've seen a couple of comments and a few other kind of content creators talk about it, and there was potentially wanting Strike to come back in. Don't make sense to me, especially with his kind of game and what you're going through when you've been rock solid. I'm not convinced by that at all. I think playing Tanaka and Gruev is a really sensible option in midfield because it just tightens the ship in there for you. And you've got your front four who are just on fire at the moment. And I think you've got more of a complete squad than Sunderland. Obviously, we know that Sunderland with Isidore on the feet can do damage, but at the end of the day, I think you've got more game winners. And I think, listen, it's a cliche, but Monday night under the lights at Ellen Road, it's kind of set up for you to do it. And I'd be surprised if you lost. A draw's not the end of the world, but I know we were having this chat, weren't we, earlier today? And what would you take? And I'll put it to you, Brown, in terms of how would you take it? Would you take 2 points for the next 2 games, or would you take 3 points for the next 2 games?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, because Mr. Booker, he posed it in our WhatsApp chat, giving us a couple of different scenarios of, you can take 2 points, draw both games, or lose one and win one at the Sunderland-Sheffield United game. I mean, you want the most points, don't you, really?
Yeah.
3 points, that you want that. But psychologically, if you lose to one of your rivals, it's really difficult. I'm going to have to sit on the fence, mate. I'm going to have to sit on the fence.
Oh, don't be hurting yourself there, Brownie.
It's terrible, isn't it? But I just, you want the points, but I think you're right, though. I think we're more than capable of winning tonight. We're more than capable of winning next week. I mean, fair play to Sheffield United, by the way. I mean, I didn't think they were going to be able to keep the pace like this up. And, I probably myself thought they were a little bit lucky the other night as well to get the 3 points, but they're hanging in there. We can have clear daylight, though, over Burnley. We can make that, I think, 7 points now if we win tonight, which 7-point gap to third is absolutely huge at this stage. And that's what Focus On could care less about winning the championship. It's just about going up. So if there's a team, that pips us to the title, if that's Sheffield United, could care less, It's all about just going up, and hopefully we can do it. Gaz, will you be watching tonight, or are you?
I'm not sure yet.
It might
be one of them that I have on my phone while the family have got the telly, and I'm kind of like half watching. I'm just looking at the table. I was trying to say to you before, Brownie, and you just nailed it there. It's about finishing in that top 2, isn't it? Yeah. You don't care whether you win the league or not, and you've got to look at it as though at the moment it's a 5-point gap on Burnley. Absolutely. Sorry, it's a 4-point gap on Burnley, and it'll go to 7 points if you win tonight. And that's all you should care about is finishing in that top 2. I think you'll do it. I don't think you'll have a problem finishing in the top 2. Obviously, the league, you'll probably win the league, but that doesn't matter. If I were a Leeds fan, I wouldn't be worried about that. Like you say, your aim is getting in the Premier League and finishing that top 2. It goes to 7 points tonight. You've got to be happy.
How are you feeling, Brownie? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's like I said, I mentioned it to you, Lou, before. It's like it feels almost like uncharted territory, because it was like last season, obviously, we were chasing. The Bielsa seasons, it was kind of up and down, and we didn't get kind of daylight at any point until kind of right at the end. So it kind of feels strange to be in this position. It's a different kind of pressure. But there's a lot of confidence there. We're playing so well at the minute. The front four are playing really well. I do think the only thing that really could potentially derail the season would be, injuries, a spate of injuries. Someone like Tanaka is just, I mean, when he's in the team, it's almost like what you were saying, Gaz, about Sarcevic. It's someone who you just trust, and I just trust Tanaka so much. I could only see potentially, an injury really kind of disrupting us, and there's still a long way to go. We suffered in the March international break last season. That cost us. Nonto was on a hot streak before that and got injured on that international break, and it didn't quite click in when he came back. So yeah, I mean, barring stupid stuff like that, hopefully we can see it through. We should mention as well, myself and Jason, we will be on straight after the game tonight on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Instant match reaction.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting for me, Brandon, because it's almost like, and people probably might not think about this, but we know from watching our teams, week in, week out, you've got a spine of players that you count on, don't you, regularly through that season, that you almost base your team around, and consistently you've you've actually not had a consistent spine. You've consistently not had a consistent spine. You've only had really Meslier and Rodon to an extent, and the rest of that's kind of you've either had Ampadu or Struijk, haven't you? I mean, in midfield, you've batted between Gruev, Rothwell, Tanaka only joined, recently. He hasn't been there all season, has he really? And Perrault didn't even start the season. So when you look at it like that, I think that's what makes it even more impressive. That, and I think you're 100% right against Sheffield United. They absolutely deserve the credit, and I think that's probably been ignored by some people in local media and press and stuff. But that's what I think Farke's done a remarkable job, because that if you're going to be top of the table, you've pretty much got then four or five players in your squad that are penciled down every time in that position, where actually you've only had really two. And would Leeds United fans call Rodon as the spine of your team? Question mark. The consistent ones have been him and Bogle and Meslier, haven't you, really? And then the front four is almost kind of is now picking itself, but that's not been consistent. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think that's been another impressive trait of Farke to get the best out of players through the whole season?
Yeah, and if you take fans' opinion on board, they for a long time, I mean, only up until probably a month or two ago, not even that, they were still saying, why isn't Nonto playing? Why isn't Ramazani starting? Or Joseph should be in against Peru. There's always been this kind of friction there between who the fans thought should be starting. And one thing I really like about Farke is kind of he's willing to go with what's actually working. He's not kind of under pressure to play. I mean, Ramazani cost, he was the big signing, really. It was like £11 million or something. It's not to be sniffed at championship level. Yet, he hasn't started a game apart from, the cup competitions. He's sticking to what he knows is working. That's what can happen in a season. It kind of develops, doesn't it? Relationships between players develop, players come into form. And Farke's really stuck to his guns with that, and he trusts the players that he trusts, and it's like Rothwell. I mean, Rothwell was supposed to be a fringe player, really, or that's what we thought, but he played so well that Farke trusted him. It seems as if he's kind of favouring Gruev a little bit more now, which you can understand for these tougher games. But yeah, no, I think you bang on. I think it's the job Farke's done this season and trusting those players and the way that team has evolved has been a big credit. And I also think it's slightly overplayed, this idea that, well, Leeds have the most money and Leeds have spent the most money, and that automatically means that they should be in the position they're in. I don't think that's true. I mean, we sold certainly two of our best players last season, and a potentially generational talent. We made the most money in Europe. Farke lost 40% of his squad from last season. We got bargains like Tanaka, a couple million. Ramazani was a big fee, but that's £11 million when you've made £140 million. I don't think it's too, And I think we've done a really good job across a lot of fronts. I don't think it's really getting the credit it deserves. It almost feels like, and I think, Wilder certainly has pushed that narrative of, Leeds are the big time spenders in the championship and the where they should be. And I just don't think that's true. I just don't think it's true. If you talk about losing Rutter and Somerville and 50 goal contributions last season, that's a really hard task that would impact anyone. And we've seen other teams that have dropped down to the championship and not been able to come back at it like Leeds have done. So yeah, hopefully long may it continue. But I don't know. I mean, do you agree with that, Lou? I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's kind of overstated, this kind of financial advantage? They have a little bit. I mean, they do in a lot of ways, but
yeah, to an extent,
but not. I think you've still got to recruit well. You've still got to put the pieces all together.
I think Leeds' recruitment has been very smart. I don't think you've made many bad signings at all. I think you've got some steady players, and I think also, listen, I'm not kind of jumping the gun because obviously you're not there yet, and people might question this, but I actually think the likes of Ramazani will probably do better in the Premier League. I think he seems to be a bit more of a technical player that will probably give more. And obviously, and you've seen him far more than me, like Dan James is having a wow of a season. But we've seen in the past Dan James sometimes just not get up to that proper Premier League level. He's almost been that in-between level. Whereas Ramazani could easily step up, I think, technically wise, to do that Premier League job. I think from a money perspective, listen, it helps. If you've got a lot of money, you can buy better players. and you're going to buy better players because of one, the size of a club that the name that you carry, and also the ambition and the manager that you're going to play under. There's no doubt about that, and I think that does massively help. But I think what has been, I wouldn't say missed, but I don't think has been appreciated enough is kind of a job that Daniel Farke's done. For me personally, if you go up, I would argue that Daniel Farke's probably been one of the manager of the year across England, just simply because of the job he's doing. I think you look at what Ariola's doing at Bournemouth is unreal. Considering, yes, they have spent a lot of money, even though it is Bournemouth, but the way he's got them playing, and again, that squad's evolved to be what it is, and he's dealt with the likes of injuries. But I think from Farke's perspective, like you said, he's lost arguably his best players. We've seen how good Rutter is in a Brighton team in the Premier League. They love him, and he's kicked on with what people thought he would do. And now you've seen likes of Archie Gray playing at centre back, which is obviously bewildering because of their injury problems. But how he's confidently stepped into that position. It may not be up to that standard in terms of a centre-back, but he's done a job that's been required and has looked out of place on occasion, yes, but that's not to be dispirited because he's done okay for what he's been able to do. And Somerville's probably the actually one who's kind of been a bit like that, when actually last year he was your best player by quite a distance. So I think the job that Farke's done has been unbelievable. I think so far it's unbelievable. I think obviously if you get to playoffs, that can be probably diluted a little bit. But I've said, my thoughts now. I said it all season. I think you're more than good enough to go up. I agree with guys. I think you'll probably go up as champions. If not, it's going to be a very, very close second. And I actually think, yes, you're going to have to recruit a lot more wisely and smartly, and probably use a bit of extra, pounds in the back pocket for the Premier League and kind of bolster and probably muss up a little bit more. But I actually think out of all the teams that would go up, you probably might be best suited in the Premier League than some of the others.
It's not. I say it a lot, particularly regarding Bradford, but at teams at any level. Obviously, yes, money plays a big part, and it gives you a big advantage on other teams when you've got more money than them. But hand in hand with that goes with how you spend the money. That is a massive thing. When you look at Man United, look at how much money Manchester United have spent over the last 10 years or whatever, and look at where they are in the league. So it's not all about how much you spend, it's how well you're spending that money. And I think, like Lou's just said there, I think you've spent very wisely. You've reinvested where you needed to reinvest. You've had a high-ish turnover of players over the last 12 months, and you've still managed to maintain that position up near the top of the championship. And like we've just said, I'm fairly sure you'll go up and probably win the league.
And I think you could also argue that you've probably got, I'd say maybe 40-50% of that first team at the moment is capable of playing Premier League. I think Tanaka is an absolute steal. One of the best players I've seen in the Championship for a long time, since some of those Wolves players under Nuno. I think he's just everything I love in a player. I think he's stunning to watch. I think he's capable of doing it. I said it with Ramazan. I think he's capable of doing it. We've seen Joe Rodon, briefly, but I think he's capable of stepping up and potentially doing it. There's a couple of the players that are potentially okay at doing that. Yes, you're going to have to possibly strengthen, but like you said, Brownie, earlier, he's got a winning formula. He's getting the best out of players. There's competition for places, which is a massive thing, which I think you struggled with a little bit at this point last season. That 11 almost kind of picked itself, whereas now he's got certain lineups set up for different scenarios, and to be flexible in different games, in different circumstances, I think is vital. So, I honestly said this. We've said it before. Farke for me is an outstanding. And at the moment, I can't see you past you going up.
He as well. You've obviously got it. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but when you go up, it's another test again, isn't it? Because obviously Farke didn't have the money to spend at Norwich that you would imagine he'll have at Leeds. But with that comes the pressure of how you're going to spend that money again, because we've seen how difficult it is for clubs who come up to maintain to stay up, for want of a better word, and that test will come again. But at the moment, if you carry on like you are, I can't see anything but you going up, Brownie. I really can't.
Would you say, Brownie, if you win these two, is that done, dusted?
Probably asking the wrong person. I'll still.
We'll not going to get Brownie to say that.
I mean, he's going to sit on his fence again. The big fence.
Yeah, I mean, even I'm kind of thinking, it's looking good. It is looking very, very good. It's a really good position to be in, and it's. if we don't do it from this position, we never will we?
Yeah.
So it's
Does it feel slightly different, no, Brownie, from a Leeds fan's perspective? And I know it probably warms your heart, so to speak, hearing comments from some of the outside of us kind of talking about, kind of bigging up your chances. But does it feel different a little bit from what it was last season in terms of, yes, like you mentioned, the expectation and you kind of lead in the pack, so to speak, if you win tonight?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, it was kind of horrible last year because Leicester and Ipswich got so far ahead so early. It was just this kind of, you're just constantly trying to catch them up. And it was, it was pretty grueling, and what 4 teams ended up with 90 plus points. I think Southampton went to 90 points as well. It was just, shocking. And then to lose at Wembley, just devastating. Whereas this season, and particularly, with the Cardiff 7-0 and all the goals that we're scoring at the minute, there's a real kind of joy to it at the minute. It's a really good position at the moment. Everyone's buzzing, and it feels really positive. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this season. I've enjoyed this season much more than last season. Than last season. The football itself, I think, is better. And we're in the position which we would have, we'd have bitten your hand off to take at the start of the season. A bit of a point gap over third, in our own hands. Any day of the week we would have taken that. So hopefully that will continue.
And I don't even think to dampen spirits for Leeds fans, but say the worst case happened and you lost these 2 games coming up, you can still go up.
Yeah,
because the season's not hinging on these 2 games.
Yeah.
Yes, it can play a part, and yes, it probably would dent confidence, but you could still lose these 2 games and still be promoted at the end of the season. So when people say, "No, it's the biggest game of the season," at this moment in time, probably feels like it because you're in that moment. But actually, when you take yourself out that situation, look across the whole season, and I don't think you've lost 2 on a bounce, have you?
No.
And you've gone in this, you're looking so strong at home. So I don't think, we've said it. I don't think there's too much to be concerned about.
Yeah, I know. Famous last words. Hopefully, me and Jason are smiling on the post.
The thing is, Brownie, you're playing well at the moment, and that's such a huge thing. Like, I look at Liverpool and the 7 points clear, but my confidence has taken a big hit with them because the way they're playing at the moment, they didn't play well yesterday against Crystal Palace. Yeah. It gives you confidence with how you're playing. Like, you look at Leeds' results, it's not just the results, it's the way they're playing, and it's got to fill you with confidence. Like you said before, if you can't be confident now, then when are you going to win these 2 games? There you go.
Exactly. Good stuff. Right, well, we will leave it there, fellas. Like I say, myself and Jason, we will be on straight after the Leeds Utd Sunderland game with our post-match reviews. If you've been watching along on X, please follow the page, and if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video. And if you're watching this again later, if you're seeing this tomorrow, not live, add your comments in as well. It's always fascinating to see what people have got to say. I want to thank everyone who's been on the show: Gaz, Lou, and of course earlier Stephen Downs, and also Dave Foy as well. I've been Stephen Brown. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.